State lawmakers heading back, both chambers. They'll be in action all this week and next week and every week until April 8th. When they adjourn, we'll, of course, bring you all of the action here on the WMAY Morning News Feed. I'm Greg Bishop. And let's talk now with Chicago State Representative LaShawn Ford coming down to Springfield for the first day of session for the House since early January. Representative, thanks for taking time with us. How you doing out there?
Good, Greg Bishop, and your listeners. Good morning.
Thumbs up. All right. So let's get into it because it's going to be somewhat of a truncated session, especially with all the days that were canceled in January. You guys did plan to come back for the governor's State of the State and budget address, but of course the foot of snow or so that we got kind of put a stop to that. So with what's left in session until April 8th, what do you anticipate is going to be some of the big things that are addressed, other than the budget, of course?
Yeah. Greg, I would say, yes, we have not been in the Capitol since January, but we've been working in our groups and we've been in committee. So we've been preparing bills and we've been voting bills out of committee or voting them down. And so now we're in the process now of taking action on some of those bills that we have voted out of committee in session. But the priority, as you said, from your experience, budget is priority. We plan to continue to craft a balanced budget and be prepared to vote on a budget long before the end of session. That's priority so that we can continue to appropriate funds to our public universities and public safety. Public safety is high priority for us in Springfield this legislative session as well.
And if you could talk a bit about that, because there's a lot of back and forth. We've seen multiple news conferences from Republicans talking about repealing the Safety Act. They've highlighted how even a grand jury a couple of times now has declined to charge some particular cases certain ways, and they're saying that it's because of the Safety Act. And that was the Black Caucus's legislative priorities last year. Is there going to be anything to address the Republicans' concerns on those?
Well, we're going to always do everything we can to make sure that we have the best laws on the books. When you think about Springfield and any government, there's always amendments to current laws to make it more perfect. And so we will continue to work with Republicans to find ways to make our public policies better, but we still believe that the law enforcement and legislators will continue to work together. We know that the Black Caucus priorities did not make our streets less safe. In fact, it was the move to what you call be smarter on crime. And we actually ignited a strong debate and conversation about how we can save taxpayers money by not locking up the wrong people and prosecuting crimes like drug offenses. That's what this is about.
We're talking with State Representative LaShawn Ford here on the WMAY Morning News Feed at 7:15. I'm Greg Bishop. Representative, do you anticipate anything addressing the governor's COVID-19 management? I know that we've seen some talk, of, at least in some committees, about more oversight, delving into things about the veterans' homes, for instance, or a variety of other issues. But when it comes to now nearly 2 full years of COVID-19 mitigation from the governor primarily, is that something that needs to be addressed by the legislature, and why isn't it being addressed?
Well, we are now at the point where the pandemic has hopefully come to the end of the tunnel. But one thing that we know is that and the governor's ability to have his executive orders in place really came into was really effective because we were out of session. And it's very difficult to legislate some of the things that the governor has used as executive orders because you would have to vote it into office, repeal it, and we may be out of session, and his executive orders are at his command where he could call them off. And so, you and I talked early on about all the governor's executive orders, and some of them I felt were a little overreaching. But when you look back, hindsight, I think that the state has been safer as a result of the governor's steady hand in this pandemic.
Well, I think that it's definitely worth talking a lot more about than the short time we have here left on the WMAY morning news feed with State Representative LaShawn Ford. Greatly appreciate you taking the time. One last thing, we've seen continued outbound migration. We lost a seat in Congress. What can the legislature do to reverse that trend?
I'm the chair of higher ed approach. If we want to bring more people to the state, we have to be known for the best education as it relates to early childhood, as it relates to K through 12, and our public universities. That will drive people into the state. And the more people we educate, the more employable they will be, crime will go down. That's what we have to do, increase the quality of education in the state of Illinois.
State Representative LaShawn Ford, always appreciate chatting with you, and we'll definitely connect again in the near future here on WMAY. All right, be safe out there.
Thank you, Greg. Bye-bye.
It is the WMAY